would you say, sir, if you're talking about ethics, that the Protestant work ethic has been a large part of an explanation for the key of economic success, whether it was in the northern countries of Europe or in the Americas?
Well, the Protestant ethics certainly explained quite a lot, but now, of course, the Chinese, the Indians, the Italians, the Catholics also have come up, and so it's a limited form of explanation. But ultimately, why some countries succeed and become prosperous, and other countries remain poor, comes back to institutions. You know, the institutions, for example, the rule of law, the existence, the respect for private property. These are the kinds of things which make people invest. If you didn't have the rule of law, or if the contracts could not be enforced in courts, you would have a problem.
True. So the rule of law existed in China, in Confucian China, also in India, and we grew at very quick rates till we achieved about per capita income that remained stable for about 1,500 odd years. And even though we were such advanced civilization, we had the Indus Valley civilization, though we don't have very good evidence of why they disappeared and why didn't they transmit their ideas through, and why didn't we have a civilization that followed on. One of the things that emerges even in the past 1,500 years is, why did Europe have an industrial revolution? Why did they have the Reformation, the Renaissance? And why were they able to mobilize debt and capital and finance their expansion and then take over the world? And why not India and China?
Well, this is one of the great questions of economic history, and I'm engaged currently in a very exciting series called The Penguin Business History of India. We are doing it in 15 volumes. I'm the general editor of this, and we are doing it text-based, beginning with the Arthashastra and going to the contemporary times. And this is the sort of question that we do wrestle with. It seems to be clear that the Industrial Revolution, which came towards the second half of the 18th century in England, was really what separated the world. In other words, all countries were poor. In 1750, the standard of living in almost all societies was the same, give or take 10-15%, not like 20 to 1 and all that we have today. And it was you had these preconditions, which we talked about, the rule of law, the respect for property. But also, you created an environment for innovation. Ultimately, what Industrial Revolution did was tinkering, was innovations. And why did the innovations come to England first? I don't know whether anybody can answer that question. However, the fact of the matter is that today in India, we are the second fastest growing economy in the world. And the question that I want to ask is, 64 countries have done the same reforms as India has. Why did India become the second fastest growing economy in the world?
Right.
Or that let me ask you, a few months ago, I had dinner with a Chinese businessman, and after dinner we went out and he saw me to the road, and there was a pothole, and he stumbled into the pothole nothing happened. I mean, it was nothing serious. But he asked me, he says, how did you become the second fastest growing economy in the world with this kind of infrastructure? So I explained to him that how in India, whereas in China, success is come from the top by the very great state which has built all the infrastructure. In India, it's been despite the state. Our success is from below. In fact, I keep saying that Indians now say this is a joke, that our economy grows at night when the government is asleep.
Right.
And,
It does.
and so the question really is that, he caught on to that. And this Chinese businessman said that, look, he said that the Chinese government, the Chinese leaders know that India has become the second fastest growing economy with one hand tied behind the back.
Right.
And their nightmare is, what if that second hand got untied?
Right.
So these are some of the interesting questions that, there is no one explanation for why nations become prosperous. I don't think anybody could have predicted that after 91 we would rise and rise so rapidly, especially when so many other countries did the same reforms as we did. I don't know, maybe we have communities in India which knew how to accumulate capital. The Banya,
Right.
well, the old merchant Vaishyas, the old merchant caste, Chettiars and Guptas, Agarwals and so on. So, I mean, these are not easy questions to answer. But the one clear requirement is to have governance. And for me, the race between China and India will be decided if India will fix governance first or China will fix its politics first. Whoever does that is going to win that race.